frame the brightness as well. So I've just added a keyframe. If you alt-click on a value in the effects control, it'll actually add a keyframe. So we'll bring the brightness down to 0, and then we'll move that over just so it lines up. And we can turn our background layer on. Cool. Now I can take our planet and give it a color correction real quick. Maybe punch up the red, bring down the, make it a little warmer, maybe add a little bit of contrast. Now I want to go ahead and duplicate the layer that we just made, the top flare. And so we'll duplicate it, Control D or Edit, Duplicate. And we'll put it below everything. We'll go into the options and we're going to disable any of the multi-iris elements. So we'll hide this and this and this. So it's just the light source. And then we'll hit OK. And if I hide the background, we can kind of see what's going on. What I kind of want to do is make it so that that element stays up longer than the foreground flare. So if we slide it over a bit. Now what I want to do is make this background flare a little bit bigger and a little bit brighter. So we'll go into the options and I'll turn the glow scale up and maybe the brightness as well. And hit OK. So it's a lot bigger, it's a lot brighter. And so then our top flare will just be a small little glimmer over this planet, and then it'll spark out. Maybe we'll offset it a little bit less. Now we might play around with the position of the flare so that it moves over just a little bit more. So let's keyframe the position. Now that it's behind the planet, it's kind of okay that we do it this way. But we just want it to look like there's a lot of light going on behind the planet, whereas if you just have a flare on top, it doesn't really give you the feel that there's something behind it that's big and powerful. So that's a kind of a cool thing. Now our sun layer probably needs a little contrast, so we'll add a curves here. I mean, we could tweak the flare, but it's probably easier just to go in there and make a few changes. Now let's extend this over and maybe move the keyframes also. Now one thing I did earlier is in the top flare I want to add a little glint as it goes out. So just before it goes out here with the brightness, we'll go ahead and set a keyframe right here so that it's going out, and then all of a sudden it just, you know, sparks up a quick little flash and then really does go out. We can maybe move that over a little bit more and maybe even turn it down at this point so you really sell the idea that it is nearly out. And it looks like our moon animation stops a little early, so we'll slide those over. All right, this is looking pretty good. We might add some stars in the background, so I could create a solid, choose effect, generate, fractal noise, or actually it's a noise, fractal noise. Could scale it down a lot, turn the brightness down, and you can just see we have like little specks and little stars left over. Looking good. Put this at the bottom here and make sure that all of our layers are screened so that it shows through a bit. And then finally I might add a little bit of contrast on top of everything. And we could possibly even add a glow on top of it as well, but I think it looks pretty nice. Now if you want to have a sharper eclipse, you could tweak the sun, or you could create another copy of the planet and just give it, let's see, let's make it white. And just go ahead and make it white. We probably want to bring the radius down just a little bit so it's just a little bit smaller than the planet. And we could add just a slight glow. So let's take a look. And then we want to move it over so that it animates with the sun in the background. But first, let's bring the radius down so the glow doesn't bleed out. So we'll just keyframe the layer, I guess. We'll hit position keyframe. Let's line it up with the rest of our animation. Holding down shift will snap to keyframes and markers and stuff. And so then I'll just slide it over. And you can, see what's happening is it's looking a little bit more like it belongs. Okay, looking good. So you can tweak the look and play around with some more intricate flares, but hopefully this gives you a little bit of an insight. Now, I do actually want to show you one other quick thing. I guess while we're here, we've got a little bit of spare time. Let's take the layer here, paste it, and we'll just create a new solid. So that's fine. We'll add optical flares, and we'll set this to screen. Now, I want to go ahead and show you the foreground occlusion in sort of a basic way. Now, the thing about using a layer that's not the same size of the comp is that After Effects doesn't quite know where the pixels are. So you want to go ahead and pre-compose the layer and move all the attributes. There you go. So we'll take our optical flares layer, we'll go to the foreground slot and set the source to this moon. And now if we move the layer, it will kind of fade out as it goes behind it. Now the light radius, if we set that to say 1, it will be a smaller amount of fade out as it reaches the edge. So a larger number might indicate a larger light source, but you can play around with those kind of things as you do it. Now, here's another idea, is if you create a light, use the light as the position. So we set it to track lights. Now we can move this around. And then if our layer is 3D, so we'll turn on the 3D layer switch there. And you sometimes want to just shut off to the accept lights there. Now, if we go to the top view here, you can see our light is right here and our layer is right there. So if we move it just behind it and go back to the active camera, we will automatically get the obscuration that we're looking for, and it won't matter if the layer is moved or scaled or changed. It'll work properly. So if your foreground layer is set up to use a layer, if that layer is 3D, optical flares will sort of automatically, calculate the vector between the light and the camera, and if it's obscured, it'll do it. So even using a 3D light is a good way to do 2D compositing, like the scene that we just created. So that is that. I am Andrew Kramer, and we'll see you next time.